Welcome along to the latest Seahawks Draft Blog live stream. Rob Staton joined tonight by Robbie Williams and Matt Mikolas to run through the big topics in Seattle going into the second week of preseason. Post your questions in the YouTube live chat. We'll read some of those out. And a reminder that Super Chats will not only support the channel, but they will get priority. We go to them first. Let's put it this way. On this stream, a Super Chat is to us what an expensive box safety is to the Seahawks, and a standard comment is but a mere experienced starting left tackle named Dwayne Brown. That's how I'm kind of viewing the situation. If that doesn't encourage you to give us a super chat, I don't know what will. And on that note, let's get into our first topic, Jamal Adams' new contract. Matt, welcome to the live stream. What was your reaction when you see the numbers and you find out that the Jamal Adams deal is done?
Thanks for having me on. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Now, I'm somebody, as you know, and if anybody follows me on Twitter or listen to me in previous broadcasts on the radio or anything, you know, I was against the Jamal Adams deal from the start. I just thought that was way too much, A, to give up for any strong safety, but then B, you know, at the time they had Bradley McDougald, and so it just didn't seem like an area of need to me, especially with so many needs on both lines. But I mean, they do the deal, and the real crux of it was they were going to always have to do this second part of it, which is, in my opinion, doubling down on the bad deal in the first place. But you don't have part A without part B. It would be a complete waste of those assets, the draft picks and Bradley McDougald, sending those things away, if you don't do a long-term extension with Jamal Adams. But that gave him all the leverage in the world to say, hey, you know, the way this team uses me, it's not just as a safety, it's blitzing. I had 9.5 sacks last year. I want to be paid more than you would typically pay a strong safety. He was absolutely able to do that. And so, you know, because of that, you have this deal, which is by far the biggest safety deal in the history of the NFL, which is ridiculous because I think that if you watched last year, he got the sacks when he was called upon to blitz. But as far as his coverage, I would say his coverage was just so-so. His impact otherwise was nice. I mean, it was good. Every team wants a Jamal Adams. I want Jamal Adams on the Seahawks, but to have a historically high salary that you're going to pay him compared to every other safety salary in NFL history, I think they missed the mark.
I tend to agree with a lot of what you've said there, Matt, and that will be no surprise to anybody who's read the blog over the last year, by the way. Robbie, have you got any thoughts on this mega deal that Jamal Adams has signed?
Well, I mean, I'm just glad it didn't reach that, 21 million that we were talking about originally. Remember, we were like, we don't think I'll accept anything less. And so I'm really glad it wasn't that. Still, the numbers are too high. I mean, like Matt said, his coverage skills are suspect, right? I mean, we've seen him time and time again. He blows a coverage, the guy makes a catch, and then he gets all in the guy's face, like he's like, huff and tough, and like he's like Cam Chancellor or something. Like he's trying to impose his like strong will on someone, like, oh, you got lucky this time. And so I didn't like a lot of that last year. I'd like to say I like Jamal Adams, though. I do. I like Jamal Adams. I think you're right. Every team wants a Jamal Adams. They want a player that can play out of position, play in a position where he can get 9.5 sacks or whatever the case might be. I'm really worried what they're going to do to the defense. If I'm trying to read the tea leaves a little bit here, my guess is that this year they're not going to utilize him correctly like they did last year. I think he'll get blown up in coverage again. I think what will end up happening is you'll probably see the end of Ken Norton Jr. this year, which I don't think too many people will be disappointed by. And they'll probably bring in somebody who can utilize his skill set because they're putting a lot of money in his basket. And they're going to need to utilize him in a way that can, justify the trade, first of all, 2 first-round picks and a third and a player, and the amount of money they gave him. So you think in terms of how the defense is going to be utilized going forward, this year, I don't know if you'll see a lot of changes. I can see there be a lot of bickering in this offseason, and then, bye-bye Ken Norton, insert someone else who can utilize him differently. a la Greg Williams. Not saying it'll be him, but somebody, with that kind of skill set that can utilize him a little bit differently, because they're putting a lot of faith in Jamal Adams being the guy leading the defense going forward.
Some interesting points there too, Robbie, and I think it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out over the next few weeks. Got some comments, got a super chat. We'll get to that in a second. Just quick, personal thoughts on this. Obviously, it became inevitable, didn't it? And my reaction is what I said on the Pedestrian podcast last week, is that when it actually happened, it was, just like, well, whatever, it's done. No excitement, just an expectation it was going to happen, and you sort of there was a lot of excitement amongst Seahawks fans that it was done and that this issue had essentially gone away, and that's fine. But I come back to this, Robbie and Matt, and I just think, again, it's the poor use of resources that I have an issue with. If you draft Jamal Adams in the first round and then you pay him a mega contract, I don't really have an issue with keeping your own and rewarding your own players. When you go and spend as much as you have on Jamal Adams, which was a crazy amount in terms of resource initially, and then you have 1 year, an injury hit year, and then you put the contracts into place as well, it is an enormous amount of resource that's gone into this. And maybe I'm just old school. Maybe I'm living in the past where I'm thinking I'm going to put my resources into the D line and the O line. And if you've got Russell Wilson and you've got DK and you've got Tyler Lockett, you can make everything else work. At linebacker, at safety, at other positions, you tight end, you can make those positions work for you if you can beat the crap out of teams up front. And that's kind of how I want to see. That's where I'd spend my resource. It's not on this position, but we'll see how it goes. I hope they get their money's worth from this. It's going to be incredibly hard, I think, to get their money's worth unless the cap just explodes because of gambling and it ends up looking a lot cheaper, 3 years down the line than it currently does. I think it's going to be really hard to get the most out of Jamal Adams to justify this. And I think you brought up Greg Williams there, Robbie. He's playing in New York for Williams, who's like the blitz specialist. He calls himself Dr. Blitz, ridiculous nickname, but still. And then he had Todd Bowles, Todd Bowles has just shown what a fantastic defensive coach he is, winning a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and another coach who is very creative with his blitzing. The Seahawks haven't brought anybody in who's either worked with Greg Williams or Todd Bowles or from that kind of schematic DNA, which may have just helped them make the kind of transition we're hoping for. We're putting a lot of trust in Ken and in Pete Carroll to get this right. So we'll see how it goes. Any final thoughts before we move on? Matt, have you got anything else you want to share on Jamal Adams?
Just the thought that, we know the impact that Bobby Wagner brings to this defense, and now you're going to be paying a strong safety Bobby Wagner money. So that just doesn't pencil out for me.
Yeah, the other thought for me is like, you might signal that this might be Bobby's last year. What is it, 20-something million guaranteed next year, or 20 million that's not guaranteed next year. So this might signal the end of Bobby, depending on the cap space. But then you also have to worry about, the other thought is, man, can you get 16 games out of Jamal Adams? So I'm sorry, 17 games now. Can you get 17 games out of Jamal Adams this year?
Well, maybe he'll get 10 and he'll just get 6 where he plays with one arm, can't catch anything and can't make a tackle on the goal line, Robbie. Who knows?
Yeah, that's my other fear. You're paying a lot for a player who has that injury history.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got a super chat here. Hey, guys, how long do you think Adams will actually be in a Seahawks uniform? Like, will Pete be the coach in 5 years? That's $1 million question. It's really hard to answer, isn't it, right now? How long is Jamal Adams, after 1 year where he's had injuries, going to last with the Seahawks? They'll hope that he lasts the whole way, that he spends the rest of his career there. I don't know. For me, when I hear people talk about Jamal Adams, I kind of feel like I'm watching a different player sometimes. People talk about Cam Chancellor. They talk about that intensity, that physicality. For me, he's not that type of intimidating force on a field. He is somebody who flies around, makes tackles, puts himself in, because he's up at the line so often, puts himself in a position where he can really impact games, but he's also going to get clipped by a tight end and the shoulder goes, or he's going to be hammered by a big lineman or something where those kind of injuries, those little nicks can happen. I can remember that first game against Atlanta, guys, where he had his best game for the Seahawks was in week 1 last season, where he looked like he was going to be an MVP candidate in that game. He got hurt because he's flying around. He's making tackles. He's blitzing. He's doing all these things. I don't know. Maybe this is me being biased because we're seeing Adams now and we didn't see. I don't really feel that way with Cam. I never feared for Cam's health. Cam was just lurking. He was like that lion in the tall grass, just waiting for somebody to, and he was going to pounce.
Yeah.
Whereas Jamal is more that he's a guy. He's all over the place. He's like an Energizer bunny rather than a lion in the grass.
And because of that, and that lending itself to injuries, and because of just what I've seen of Jamal Adams, and because of the way this deal is structured, to answer the question that was texted in, 3 years. So that's what I see with Jamal Adams. After that, they can get out of the deal. It still hurts to do it in year 4, or I guess what's year 3 of the extension. Now looking at year 4, if we're looking at it as he's under contract for the next 5 years, right? So going into that 4th year, they'd be able to move on from him, whether that's trade or by cutting him or whatever, and save a few dollars. I think $9 million on the salary cap by doing it. That's the first time they'd really be able to get out of it, and it would still, it would still impact the salary cap. But that's the earliest point where it'd even be sensible or feasible to do it. And I think that's exactly when it happens.
Robbie, a last thought maybe on Jamal Adams, his style, his durability?
Well, I'm just reading the comments here, and Alex Lowe says Adams had missed only 2 regular season games prior to this in Seattle. And that might be true. Alex, you might be right. I really don't know. I just feel like last season when we saw him, I felt like he was injured quite a bit. So, maybe you're right. Maybe Alex is right. And he plays 16, 17 games. I don't know. I'm just going off what I saw in Seattle. So, and it's just tough. You paying him that amount of money. You want to see him play the whole time. That's all.
He's missed 6 games in the last 2 seasons, which doesn't sound a great deal. But then you consider how many games he probably should have missed in Seattle last year. He had no business playing in that playoff game, and he had no business playing in the Rams game on the road when he couldn't make a tackle. He couldn't make a tackle. The last thing you expect from your strong safety on the goal line is to be shirking out of a tackle and letting a guy score. And that happened in both of those games. There was the missed interception because of he couldn't catch because of the fingers. So we say it's 6 in 2 years. It could have been 8 in 2 years, and then when you start getting up to that number, 8, 10, and it becomes an issue. And look, you can't label him as injury prone right now. But if he misses time in the first half of this season, people are going to start asking questions when he's being paid $17.5 million a year. Right, let's move on to the next big topic, which is going to quickly become the main topic in Seattle, if it's not already. Dwayne Brown. And Jamal Adams, the deal's been done a while now, guys. It's been a few days. The NFL moves on very quickly. Stony silence on Dwayne Brown. No updates, no reports, no seeming discussion between the two parties. That might be going on behind the scenes. But Matt, now that Jamal's done, are you concerned that we're not hearing anything? When is the time to panic with Dwayne Brown? Because from listening to people who have got those connections within the Seahawks, they're all saying Dwayne Brown, he's prepared to miss a game. He's prepared to miss time. He's done it before.
Yeah. The Dwayne Brown situation for me was never a Jamal Adams deal getting done is tying up Dwayne Brown. For me, it comes down to, I think that maybe the hardest position to move on from, other than like quarterback, whatever, the hardest thing to do is to go from a high-end left tackle and make that transition to whatever's next, especially if they're getting up there in years. It's clunky. It's just going to be clunky. It was clunky at least for a successful team. It was clunky when they moved on from Russell Okung. It's going to be clunky moving on from Dwayne Brown because you have a team that's not going to be picking in the high half of the NFL draft every year in the first round where the good left tackles go. You're not finding quality left tackles in free agency because it is such a difficult commodity to hang on to for these clubs, and you're not going to be able to even trade for them. They were very lucky to be able to trade for Dwayne Brown. They had to get involved with a Houston organization that doesn't know what they're doing. So that's what it took to get a Dwayne Brown. Now you're in a situation where he's at the end of his career, and I don't think this is different from the Jamal Adams thing because Jamal Adams wanted years, but he also wanted more money. Dwayne Brown isn't holding out saying, "Hey, I'm not being paid enough." He's saying, hey, I want more years. I want more security. I want to be tied up in this organization for 2-3 more years. And I want to know that's happening right now before I go out there and play again. It was more akin to the Earl Thomas situation than a Jamal Adams situation. So the thing with the Seahawks, I don't think they want to commit those dollars and years to him necessarily at this stage in his career. Now, do they want to roll the dice on Stone Forsythe? I don't think they want to do that either, but and this is why it becomes clunky. It's a real tough situation moving from a high-end left tackle when you have no heir apparent.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point, Matt, because I kind of see it from both sides. I can totally understand Dwayne Brown saying, I don't want to play on a 1 year. I want some security. I want to feel like I'm going to be part of this until I want to be retired. And I can totally see that. And then from a Seahawks perspective, we've been here before, Robbie, haven't we? Where we've seen a player get re-signed in Cam Chancellor. He experiences a very unfortunate injury, and then it's not nobody's fault. But the Seahawks are left with dead money. And then you see another situation where they reward an older player who has achieved a lot in Marshawn. He retires. They've got some dead money there as well. So if Dwayne Brown decides, oh, that was a really physically tough year, and actually this is the year that's caught up with me, and in 6 months decides I'm going to call it a day, then the Seahawks could be left with a financial penalty here right after they've just paid Jamal Adams a huge contract, right before they have to go and negotiate with DK Metcalf, because that talk is coming in the offseason. DK Metcalf is going to be expected to be paid. And if he's not paid this time next year, he's going to be doing what Jamal Adams has been doing for the last few weeks. And he's going to be stood there in a hoodie watching the practice. He's not going to be playing. So this is the complex situation. This is the NFL. But at the same time, Robbie, you've just had your quarterback making it very clear that he expects a better season this year. And he expects things to be done differently. Starting the season with Jamarco Jones or Stone Forsythe at left tackle, that ain't going to get it done with Russell Wilson, is it?
No, and you're going to have to use one of your prized possessions over there, Gerald Everett, to block a lot more on that left-hand side to help the left tackle, because he ain't going to be going out for passes. I can tell you that. No, it's interesting that they're going this route. I don't know why they haven't signed him, to be honest with you. I would. I mean, he's proven that he's durable. He proves that he's a solid player. You know, everyone likes him. He's a leader on the offensive line. You know, I'm not talking about extending him another 4 years, but what's wrong with throwing another year or two on his contract just to keep him happy, and you know, let's not go into this season with a bunch of like question marks, and you know, and you know, I'd hate to drop a game or two just because we didn't, you know, we were playing too proud. You know, why do that? Let's go in. Let's have our full roster. Let's have everyone happy. Let's go in. Let's get it. And if we're serious about making a championship run, you need Dwayne Brown. Simple as that. If you're not wanting to make a championship run, if you really don't think you're going to do it, then fine, let him sit out and save your money. But that doesn't seem like that's the way to go.
It's not an easy fix. You got to thread the needle, but they're going to have to do something. They're going to have to give him 2 years so that, you know, third year being a phantom year, kick him some bonus money, and at least make him feel like, hey, if you play well this year, you're going to be a part of the club next year. And I think that'll satisfy him.
Yeah, I think I agree, and I think that, you know, what you said, Robbie, is right. Just get it done. You know, I think we're at a point now with your quarterback whereby you have to take the risk that you're going to be left with some dead money. You've got to get Dwayne Brown on that field. He has to be playing where you are, Robbie, in Indianapolis in week 1, protecting Russell Wilson. There's just and if there's an issue down the line, well, at least nobody can accuse the Seahawks of doing what you said, which is dropping a game potentially because you're trying to be cute with your left tackle. They've got to get this done, and hopefully they will do now. And they've got a long run up at that with the Adams negotiation out of the way. A couple of super chats. Max, thank you, sir. Appreciate you too. Perry has also got involved as well. Love the cat avatar, even though I'm a dog person. I can take a cat as well.
It's those eyes, those cat eyes.
Yeah. We've had this message here before we move on to a different topic from Joe. For the left tackle position, only 3 options: re-sign Brown, pursue Terran Armstead or Cam Robinson. That would be very expensive, the Armstead if he even reaches free agency, and or trade for Andre Dillard. Now, Dillard's had a really difficult time, hasn't he? I mean, he's basically been on the out of Philly since about 2 weeks after he was drafted by the Eagles. Report today that some teams are calling. I mean, for me, it kind of feels like this is heading one way with Andre Dillard, I'm afraid to say. That it looks as if already he is a bust. And I don't know. I wouldn't be overly confident putting the state of the season in his hands, guys. I'm guessing, unless you two know otherwise, have you got a different take on that?
No. I mean, popular name, obviously, because of where he went to school out here in the Northwest. But no, I'm not trying to protect Russell Wilson and do all that with Andre Dillard. No. You just make it work with Dwayne Brown and hope that he's healthy this year and reevaluate next offseason. When you have a couple more options and you have a more I know you have a first round pick, but you have a more complete draft, or maybe Stone Forsythe has a year under his belt. You don't expect a 6th round draft pick to be able to step into the NFL and play left tackle. So that's not an option now, but with his size, and working with a good offensive line coach like they have, Mike Solari, maybe after a year's development, he would be able to step into that role or step over to the right side. Maybe Brandon Shell could swing over to the left. I don't know, but right now, that's not an option.
No. And we've had this message here from Jeffers, or should that be Jeffers? It says it's a lot of Fs there. It's a lot of Fs.
That's how I live my life.
We were all trying to think of something funny to say there about the F. Matt pulled it out. It's possible that they are planning on re-signing him, but feel less of a sense of urgency because they weren't planning on playing him in preseason anyway, which is a plausible thing. There's no rush there, and I always kind of think there's a soccer team where I live, and they were in the Premier League the last couple of years, and they were very good at sort of timing their contract announcements. It was always right before a big game, or right before the season started, or it was as if just to give everybody a lift right before the season started. And I just wonder if the week before the first game there will be some news on Dwayne Brown, just because for that impact as well. But
sure. Hope so.
We'll see. We'll see. They've got to get him out there. I mean, I don't think Russell Wilson will allow them to get away with anything there. So we'll see.
Put him on the Walter Jones plan. First week of practice for week 1, sign the deal and roll out there and act like nothing was wrong.
I know the fact that John has introduced some college football politics in here. Who thought a left tackle from Wazoo facing 0 NFL caliber pass rushers in the Pac-12 would be a first-round talent? Never made sense. Hey, there is a very good pass rusher though at Oregon.
That's true.
He may be the number 1 pick next year. So let's not get too hasty there, John. Let's not get too hasty.
But see, he got to rip a Coug, and he got to discount Kayvon Thibodeau as well. So I mean, 2 birds, 1 stone.
That's a double whammy.
Yeah.
Roman has got a super chat. Roman, thank you. Who will be the starting center? He says in India. I hope that they're not going to win. I mean, I have been to India. That would be an unusual place to play the opening game. I think
they're really expanding these international games. Right. I know they want to get beyond London. So
well, listen, I've been to Delhi in September, and you wouldn't be able to see the field for all the smoke. So you want to go to the Goa in the south, where I got food poisoning when I was there. So that's another story. That was on my honeymoon as well. Ask my wife about that. So anyway. Sidetracks. Who's going to be the center? It looks at the moment as if it's going to be Kyle Fuller. And I don't know how I feel about that. I've not seen enough of Kyle Fuller to feel confident or negative about it. But whenever the Seahawks kind of just pluck a center from nowhere and shove him in the starting lineup, it never seems to really work.
No, I mean, it worked in the case of Justin Britt. That's about it, though. I still think it's Ethan Posic's job. I think if he was healthy right now, I think it would look that way too. Just he's been battling injuries, so I don't know. Kyle Fuller. I mean, Posic's been doing the job. I think Fuller would have to really, really show out, like really show them something to supplant Posic. I mean, I don't consider either to be a massive win for the Seahawks, So, I mean, you don't have a guy in either circumstance is going to make a Pro Bowl or anything like that. But so I think it will go back to Posic.
Yeah, I agree. I think that as well. It's just frustrating we didn't go out and target a center this offseason. I really wanted them to, and here we are. This is the best we made.
Do you know what's great?
Talking about it. Yeah.
It's all of the rookie centers are like, oh, he's having a great camp.
Right.
It's just
I know.
they rub salt into the wounds. You know,
Yeah.
have some more salt in that wound there. This center's
Yeah.
looking great. The one in Green Bay is looking amazing.
Yeah.
He was right there. No, you don't need any of this O-line stuff.
I can't complain. I wanted a speedy wide receiver with that second round pick, and they got the guy I want, or not the guy, but they got one of the guys that I wanted. So they did what I wanted them to do. I can't complain.
We have to be fair. You know, I did not complain about the Eskridge.
Yeah,
and neither did you, Robbie, either.
No,
It's just when you get. I think it's because we're here now, and the Eskridge is only just getting on the practice field, and we've had like 2 weeks of how amazing all the sensors have looked. Or at least that's the kind of a couple of them have played really well in camp. It kind of makes you think, oh, but it's fair. You know, if the Eskridge has a really good rookie season, we're not going to be fretting about that. Sure. And the other thing that we mentioned after the draft was, of course, that in LA, they haven't prioritized. They've kind of just plugged in sensors, and they've not felt that in their offense was maybe the most important position because they want to get the ball out quickly. So it's possible that they might just sort of get through with that one. I wanted to talk a bit about Darrell Taylor. Keep the super chats coming, keep the live chats coming. We will get to as many of the comments as we can, but as we've already shown, the super chats will get the priority. But Darrell Taylor makes his debut. I've got to be honest, guys, I have not gone back and studied the first preseason game because it was the most boring load of old bollocks I've ever watched, right? And it's the first preseason, it's the first game in a long time. We're talking well over 10 years that I have not stayed up to watch a Seahawks game, but there was no way I was staying up till 2 a.m. to watch Geno Smith and Alex Magoo play in that game against the Raiders backup. So I watched it in the morning. There was a fair bit of skimming through it, and I was grateful.
Geno lasted about a minute.
Yeah.
So.
Adam, who occasionally joins us, who lives in London, messaged me straight away and was like, "Oh my God, how bad was that?" I was like, "Yeah, we didn't stay up though, so at least we were not in Seattle, so we didn't watch it live, so it's fine." But Darrell Taylor played, and that is the positive. He played. He actually got on the field. I know personally, I wondered if we'd ever see that day after what happened in year one. But I have a question for you, Matt. They're trying to play him at Sam.
I know.
And for me, I just wonder, this is a guy who's been out a year. He's an edge rusher. It's what he did well at Tennessee. Why not just play him off the edge and say third downs, pin your ears back, get us some sacks?
That's what I want to see. I mean, you brought him in to be a sack specialist. Just like when they drafted Bruce Irvin, they brought him in to be a sack specialist. Now they end up moving him to linebacker, and they're doing the same thing with Darrell Taylor. So I guess that makes me question how much of a pure pass rusher he really is. You know, all these reports out of training camp that how explosive he is and how good he looks and everything, but then you see the usage and you see what they're doing with him. They're moving him around. They're having him in all different kind of roles. So, you know, is he a jack of all trades, master of none kind of candidate? I hope not. You know, I got excited about the prospect of him putting his hand in the ground and beating some offensive linemen around the edge and getting to the quarterback. So that's the role I want to see him in. You know, that's what Alton Robinson was doing the other night, and he looked phenomenal. So I'd like to see a lot more of that from Darrell Taylor.
Yeah, cut the crap. Put him on the D-line. Go get KJ back. No one wants to see this jargon. What are we doing? And first of all, I know this isn't a super chat, but Isaac, you can't take away my man card. You can't revoke me for a Michelob Ultra. This is a Fit Aid, sir. Let's see if I get that. There we go. Fit Aid.
I put the comment on there.
There you go. It's an athletic recovery drink.
You might as well be talking in Chinese for what this means to me. I don't know what a Mick Ultra is.
It's a beer, if that.
Oh.
It's like 3 grams of carbs.
That's one of those beers.
It's like a light beer.
It's not a beer.
Yeah. It's not really a beer. It's like some sort of flavored water.
See, I took a personal offence that Bud Light was the official beer of the England football team during the Euros. I was like, what? You know, come on, that is not a beer for that is drunk in England. But anyway,
it would not be served in a proper pub.
It would not. If you go to a pub, you will not. There is one pub that I know that does Coors Light, and people just look at it with like, "What is that?" You know, it might as well be serving fresh vomit in the pubs.
I think I was there. I think it's off in Camden Market. It's where they air all the college football games.
I know that Britain has a reputation in the States for warm, unpleasant beer, but actually, I will say this: it is if you go to the right places. then you can have a very, very, very nice night on the beer in
Right.
England. So,
but anyway,
get over here.
back to it. I mean, someone just said KJ is too old. I mean, KJ's getting up there, but man, he played so great last year. I think he deserves a shot for him. 1-2 year deal. I think it'd be great to bring him back. I'm not saying giving him extensive, crazy amount of money. But man, we just freed up an extra $4 million off of the Jamal Adams trade. Like he's got to go somewhere. Like why not bring KJ back? I mean, I'd rather see a seasoned player like KJ back in this role than having someone like Dare Taylor, who like I was in the same boat as Rob. I didn't even know if he was going to ever play. So I mean, great to see him play. I'm excited, but I would love to see him get around the edge a little bit more. Unless they're trying to dial up some crazy blitzes this year and get creative, I'd rather see KJ back. But
see this comment here. I thought Marcus was saying that PFF had said that KJ was too old, but actually no, it's
KJ is too old. Yeah.
Again, with all the Fs.
Yeah.
A lot of Fs. It's a very F-happy crowd here.
Yeah. I think, they've got to get KJ. I mean, just get KJ right back. He had one of his best years playing the Sam, Taylor, Robinson, Carlos Dunlap. Just pin your ears back, guys. Go and get some sacks.
Yeah, I was against re-signing KJ Wright in the offseason. Back in March when free agency starts and you got to pay, legit linebacker money for him. But now the situation being what it is, you free, like you mentioned, the Jamal Adams deal freed up some money there. You don't have to pay him as much because nobody's knocking on his door. I think he's had 1, maybe 2 visits this entire offseason, including down in Las Vegas, and that didn't pan out, at least not for right now. So, look, I mean, I was like, don't sign KJ. This is why you drafted Jordan Brooks. You don't hinder his development and everything. Let him be the guy. But look, if you got KJ here, the way he played last year, I'm stunned that he hasn't had more offers. I don't think he's ready to retire. So, why not bring him in, add him to this defense, let him help, and give him another year of helping to develop Jordan Brooks, and just kind of set everybody where they should be, including Daryl Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, a few people have been tweeting me today saying that KJ was on the brink of signing, but then they didn't realize that they were quote tweeting an account called Joe Narn rather than Joe Fan, and a Narn bread. And somebody actually sent me the same account. It reported 3 days ago that Russell Wilson has told the Seahawks he will not play a single preseason game unless Dwayne Brown is extended and back on the field practicing. And somebody actually sent this to me.
I believe that.
It's convincing, yeah. But someone actually sent this to me and Colin Coward for some reason, and Corbin Smith and Mina Kimes and Hawk Blogger. And I just replied, "You're quote tweeting bread. Just look at the account. This is a bready account. This is not the real deal." We've had another super chat from Roman. Thank you so much for that. What would a good rookie season look like for Eskridge? What do you think, Robbie?
What would a good season look like? I mean, I'd love to see, depending on the injury, right? I'd love to see him play at least 14 to 17 games. They could right around that range. And then as far as yardage, I'd love to see him get, 500 yards this season. It'd be great. But I think we'll probably see him more in a kick return role would be my guess this season. He might I'd love to just see some flashes, anything really. I'm excited about him. I know he's fast. I know he's got good hands, and I'm just excited to see him play. And I love reading that he was getting up super early with Russ and getting after it now that he's back. And, those are all good things and good signs to come. And, but for me, I think, I don't want to put too many, we still have Tyler and DK, so I'm not trying to put too much pressure. I'm not saying like 1,000 yards, but man, if he could get 500 yards, it'd be great. I think it'd be a good sign going forward.
I expect maybe more than other people. I expect 40 to 50 catches from him, and about 500-600 yards. The yardage isn't necessarily what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is moving the chains on third down. I'm interested in a Bobby Ingram type role on third downs. Now he's a different physical specimen than Bobby Ingram was, and they're going to be doing different things with him. But that's the other thing I look to him to do is open up this offense a little bit, keep defenses on their toes, fly sweeps, wide receiver screens, drag routes, things like that. Things that are going to they're going to have to account for where he is because of his speed out there. So Just those two things, and I don't think that's too big for him. I think that he can be effective on third down with his kind of quick first step and getting open. And I think the reason they drafted him, they know that he can be effective on those more horizontal routes using the entire field. So if you see a noticeable difference in those two areas from this offense, which has been lacking both of those items, then that's going to be a successful first rookie year.
I'm going to jump in just a little more fast, Rob. Sorry, and I agree with that. If it's him taking defensive players away and opening up other slots for our tight ends or running backs, opening up the field a little more, I think that's. I mean, it might not even be in stats necessarily. It could just be him opening up the field a little bit more, making the defense think a little bit more, and causing them to have to shift more, giving other players an opportunity to make plays. So yeah, I totally agree with that, Matt.
Yeah,
Big Mike, you're absolutely right, by the way. Short and intermediate passing game, which just disappeared from this offense. I don't know where that went. It's just non-existent. Let's find that again. And that's what they brought in Shane Waldron to do.
Yeah. I mean, also, wouldn't it be great when 3-4 games in and teams have got the tape on the Seahawks if they can just throw a few different looks and a few different things, so that keeps teams guessing, it keeps them on the toes. And maybe D. Eskridge with his range of abilities and DK's athleticism and Tyler's obvious quality can just combine to create an offense which it's evolving, it's changing, it's got ideas, it catches teams off guard. That's the thing with the Rams. They have so many different wrinkles and misdirections and stuff like that. And you see the production over the years with McVay, and it'd be great to see a bit of that in Seattle. And just a quick point on the what is a gauge maybe for if people want to know. DK Metcalf had a great rookie season. So did Tyler Lockett. What did they do? So Tyler Lockett's rookie season in 2015, my word, that feels like such a long time ago. I had hair, although it was going. And 2015, 664 yards for Tyler, 51 catches, 6 touchdowns. Fantastic rookie season. DK Metcalf, 58 catches, 900 yards, 7 touchdowns. So I don't think it's fair on D. Eskridge to expect that, but certainly it goes to show that, yardage wise, if you can get 500 yards, nobody should be disappointed with that, especially if we assume that DK and Tyler are going to be producing. And DK's, the sky is the limit. And having got 1,300 yards last season, he's more than capable of getting an extra 200 this year.
Was it that many? Wow. I forget, but it was a big year. It was a big year. Oh, I love DK. It's that's the thing with this offense. Look, I think that right now Russell Wilson has, the biggest crop of the best weapons he's had in his entire career. I also think he has one of the better offensive lines that he's had, a pass dominant offensive line in front of him. I think that especially that's why they trade for Gabe Jackson. That helps. That's the first time they've brought in a starting pass dominant guard that I can remember. Damian Lewis, he does just fine with pass pro. Obviously, you think you have Dwayne Brown back. We liked what we saw to Brandon Shell last year in pass protection. Dwayne Brown, you know what he does. So that aspect of it, pretty good for Russell Wilson. But then the weapons. You mentioned if you have a legit third wide receiver here, you've added Gerald Everett now to the tight end room as well. So I think that all the pieces are absolutely there to march the football down the field and make this one of the better offenses in the NFL. It's just will the system allow Russell Wilson to do that? And by the system, I mean the system that Pete Carroll allows, not the system that Shane Waldron allows. We'll let Waldron be Waldron so Russ can be Russ. One of the interesting things that I found this offseason, and I think it was Tyler Lockett who said it, talking about just the tempo that they've been running and everything. And Russell Wilson's always talked about, I want to go tempo, want more tempo. He said that the amount of plays out of no huddle that Russell Wilson has, before he had about 15 plays that he could choose from when he's calling the no huddle plays. Now he has 45 to 50 plays.
Wow.
So it's going to look different in that way. It's going to look quicker. It's going to get the ball out quicker. There's going to be more rhythm to this offense. And Russell Wilson's going to have more on his shoulders, but I
think we've just lost Matt there on his connection, but we'll hopefully that'll just work itself out. And if not, he can rejoin us in a few moments. We've got a comment here, Robbie, that I'll introduce while we're waiting for Matt. It says the new bare front the Hawks have been using will help use Taylor's strengths more. Treat Adams as the opposite linebacker. Use Marquise Blair as the more true strong safety and with a line in the grass roll. Certainly hope so. My concern is that what will actually happen is what happened in the first preseason game, which is all of a sudden you end up with Alton Robinson trying to cover. And teams find little mismatch areas where certain guys are lined up against certain guys, and they make the most of that. And that is a pure distrust. That is why I have a little bit of distrust with Carroll and Norton working this system, that I actually think that they could have benefited from having somebody else coming in and doing it, because that was, and look, better for that to happen in preseason week 1 rather than week 1 of the regular season. We've got Matt back.
Yeah.
I think we just lost.
Right. Sorry about that, guys.
No problem. No problems. Do you want to finish your point?
I'm not sure right where I cut off, but just the fact that Russell Wilson is going to have, I think at this stage in his career, for him to have more options, more on his plate, I think that's a good thing. I think that's setting up this offense to be better than it's been before.
Yeah, I think that's fair points. A couple more topics that I want to get into before we wrap up here. Cornerback position. One of the big talking points now is the state of the cornerbacks. Everybody had a good look at a Keller Witherspoon and the Trey Flowers combo at the weekend. It is official. Trey Flowers is still Trey Flowers. He hasn't evolved into this new elite cornerback in the last few months. And I think people were a bit disappointed that Keller Witherspoon played the way he did as well. Now, whether that's on him, whether that's just first game, whether he's been told, look, just play it this way in week 1 preseason, I'm not sure. But there's a feeling that they need to be better there. The only problem is they don't have a first-round pick next year, so their stock is reduced. They can't go and make it. And people are like, Stephon Gilmore, CJ Henderson, these kind of deals seem unlikely to me. People have been suggesting, well, maybe there's somebody out there at a corner-rich team like Denver who could come in. But then we don't really have any names here. This is a very difficult time of year to improve at cornerback. What do you guys think? We'll start with you, Robbie.
Man, I said this last year, and I just so badly want Trey Flowers to be the guy. I just so badly want him to be so good, and then every game I'm just like, what are you doing? Every time it's so frustrating, and he just and this game was like against backups, and it was. I don't know, man. It was ugly to watch. That game was horrific, and I maybe you could chalk it up to pregame jitters in the first game of the season. I don't know, but yeah, this is an area that I don't know how we improve. You're banking on a lot out of your rookie Trey Brown to step up and kind of maybe be that guy, or DJ Reed when he gets back. I know he's been injured. So, you're really hoping on those two guys stepping into that role and helping. And, Witherspoon, the only thing I'd say is, like kind of you said, maybe just was, play it kind of this way and then we'll unleash the dog in you later kind of thing. I don't really know, but it was not fun to watch. And the cornerback is probably, in my opinion, the weakest position on the team right now.
Yeah, DJ Reed's going to be there. If he wasn't in the middle of an absolute crisis, I would be shouting from the rooftops to bring in Richard Sherman right about now. I'm sure everybody would. But just given what happened this last month, I don't see that happening. So I don't know that there really are options other than DJ Reed and Trey Flowers. I think those are your starters. And if something happens to Reed, then you just got to deal with Witherspoon. I don't see at this stage in the game things really improving. They'll bring in somebody who gets cut on cut down day. 2 days later, they'll bring in somebody, probably a veteran or something. But why is he getting cut on cut down day? So I don't think it's anybody that's going to be necessarily impactful. I just think you got what you got, and you're going to have to rely on your revamped pass rush and Jamal Adams, I guess.
The coverage expert.
Yeah.
It's a concern, isn't it? It's a position that you look at it, and I think people were maybe didn't realize how much of an issue it would be, in the months after the draft, when Keller Witherspoon and with Richard Sherman still being out there, and a lot of people still really hoping that he would come back. And that felt like it was always an option for Seattle if needs be. And, Trey Flowers still there, Trey Brown's come in, DJ Reed, Pierre Desir. But actually, when you look at it, you think, well, yeah, this isn't actually a great situation. And fingers crossed it can do something there. I think actually one other point that I would sort of bring up onto this, and this is, I just sprung to mind, I don't know why I didn't bring it up earlier, guys, is when people are talking about the first preseason game, and Tommy was saying it's a vanilla scheme and all of this. One thing that I really did notice when I was actually paying attention to that first preseason game was this was backups versus backups, and Las Vegas's backups kicked Seattle's backups' ass. Now that speaks to the depth a little bit. Now Seattle is always going to be very competitive with the star talent they've got with Russell Wilson, DK, Tyler, Bobby Wagner, Dwayne Brown, all being well, the Jamal Adams, the guys like this, Quandre Diggs, they've got enough talent that they'll never be let's say a 5-win team with all these players if they stay healthy. But the difference between the teams who are good and the teams that are great, it is usually the teams that can withstand some injuries to some of those key players, that have got the depth that can come in, that have got rotations in key areas, that have got really strong depth. We saw it when Seattle won the Super Bowl. They may be the deepest team that's been in NFL history in the salary cap era. I mean, they were so deep across the board. This Seahawks team ain't deep, is it, Matt?
No, and it's not going to be. I mean, that's what a lot of people talk about. If you have a quarterback that's making X percent of the salary cap, whatever, you can't win a Super Bowl. I don't buy that, especially if it's a quarterback that's as much of a difference maker as Russell Wilson is. But you have to have a little bit of luck with injuries, because you're not going to be deep unless you are drafting phenomenally well. And I think we know this front office hasn't drafted that well since 2014. So it's just not going to be the case. You have to get a little lucky with injuries, and you have to just, those guys you're paying to play well, they have to play super well for you to get back. I don't think it's impossible. I think you make it harder on yourself, but they can do it.
Robbie, thought on the depth?
Yeah, I mean, you saw it. It's clear as day. I mean, the Raiders came out and they were just thumping us left and right. And, that was the first thing I thought is, man, their depth is just a lot better than ours. But, goes into, we're relying on our big time stars and starters to stay healthy throughout the season. And really you're just banking on that. And you can just hope that you can withstand some of the injuries that come with some game planning and scheming, and hopefully they'll be able to work around some of those things. Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen it in a long time, like a solid depth. I remember, way back when we were just like every preseason game, we were 4-0, 4-0, 4-0. We were just destroying teams, and it was awesome. And you're like, we're the greatest team ever. And then, you just want to see it. You just want to see that happen. I mean, I don't care if it's preseason or not. I want to win. I don't care. I just want to win all the time. And so, watching that, like it's at least, you can at least say, well, it was preseason, and our starters weren't in, and what would the difference have been? But it's not fun to lose, and it's not fun to lose in that fashion. It wasn't even fun to watch. Like, I mean, to be honest, it was just boring. I had no joy in that game whatsoever. So I'm hoping this next game is a little bit better.
Yeah, although I have to say, I've not. In previous years, I have watched a bit of other teams' preseason games, and I have absolutely zero interest in doing that right now. I don't know what it is, whether it's the fact there was no preseason last year, whether let's just get on with the regular season. It's not appealing at all, and I just can't watch it. And I'm going to watch this. I'm not going to watch this live on Saturday either. I'm going to watch it on Sunday morning. With my kids running around distracting me. It's probably for the best, let's be honest. We'll see what happens in that game. We've got a couple of super chats before we get on to our final topic. Kyle says, thank you, Kyle, for the support. Top man. What will be the over-under on offensive delay of game calls, because the play call comes in with 5 seconds left on the play clock? Hopefully this is not going to happen as much.
Yeah.
But that's up to Pete to stay out of the way, Pete. Just go
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. Probably more than I should have.
Go over there, Pete. This is Shane's on the mic. Don't change the play call.
Yeah.
Go over there, figure out how to use a challenge and when to do it.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was especially bad last year. And I like the fact that someone suggested it's great that Tatus back now, and that'll put it right. And I was like, is that really going to... It kind of feels like that kind of happened when he was here before. So we'll see. We'll see. And we've got another one here. Perry's jumped in again. Thank you, Perry. The cat is I want to look. How do you pronounce this? Is it Eagle? Egil? Egil? Is it Egil? I think it's. If you're from Norway, it's Egil Ostenstad will ring a bell. I can remember there was he's a footballer. Sorry, 90s soccer over here. I'm guessing Egil. So and he just spent 2 weeks of catnip to support the podcast. Well, thank you. But that is, I'm sure those 2 weeks you'll feel good about it when you get that catnip. Get back on it. Get back on the saddle in a couple of weeks' time. So the final thing I wanted to talk about was, funnily enough, the preseason game. Robbie, what do you want to see from this game? Personally, what I want to see is no starters playing, because there's the news today that the Jets pass rush is out for the year with an Achilles injury. I always feel like it's a Seahawks player when I see stuff like that, because I think that could easily be one of our guys. That could be a DK. That could be Russ. That could be anybody. I hate to see it. Lawler's gone down for the year. I don't want to see the starters playing against the Broncos, who are a good defensive team. I'm happy to let them wait till week 3 and have a series, and that's fine. I don't need to see it. That's my wish. Have you got anything that's more interesting than that?
No, I mean, I hate to play the game living in fear, though. Like I don't want to live in fear with the team playing. I want our guys to be ready for, the first week. I want to see them do whatever the necessary. Maybe if that's sitting them, let them sit. If that's playing them a series, let them play a series. But, I think really what I'd like to see out of our backups is to come in, have some sustained drives, put together something that looks resemblance of good football, and get a couple of defensive stops. I'd love to see guys like Darrell Taylor and these players just go out and play really well and give us something to be excited about, because that first game I left nothing really excited about anything. So I'd like this next game just to come away with something to be excited about. That's what I'd like to see.
I don't care if it's a starter or if it's the 75th guy or whatever it is on the roster. I want to see a cornerback make a play on third down to get them off the field, because I feel like I didn't see one play made against the Raiders, and I was almost pulling my hair out, and it's early August, and that shouldn't happen yet. So that mid-September is when that starts. So my hair, look, it's been a nice little off season. It's come back in. Everything's good, full. Okay, not even a ball spot or nothing like that. Okay, it's supposed to stay that way at least until September when the regular season starts. But I was going through it last week in week 1 of the preseason, which I don't appreciate. So let's get them off the field. Whoever it is, somebody please make a play and set yourself apart in this cornerback battle, because good Lord.
Yeah, all this hair talk's making me jealous, Phil. I mean, because I can see Robbie's. It's like
I got some luscious lock going right now.
Some hair going on there, man. Right there.
It's almost over though.
I'm just going to call you Charlie Whitehurst and that's going on there.
Lord Jesus.
Yeah, enough hair talk. Okay, guys, just think about who else is here.
You've got it on your face. That's good enough.
That's probably. It. My head is upside down.
There you
are. Listen, guys, it's been a pleasure, and fingers crossed to no injuries and a more interesting game. I think the other thing I'd like to see is, I just remember, Tyler Lockett showing a flash in his first preseason game gets everybody excited, doesn't it? Just seeing those little flashes just get you through what can be quite a boring occasion of preseason game. Just sort of seeing those young guys show up and start to emerge. Maybe there's somebody that can do that in this game and just make it a little bit more interesting for us. But and a win would be nice too. I mean, the fans are going to be back. That's going to be good. I think actually one thing I'd be more excited about this season, I think, if I lived in Seattle and I thought I'm going to be going to Lumen Field.
Yeah,
either on Saturday or in a couple of weeks' time. The fact that I'm all the way over here in merry old England, I kind of feel so far away from it. It might as well be. It is the other end of the world, and therefore that excitement that maybe a lot of people back in the Pacific Northwest are feeling right now, it just hasn't travelled across. And people like myself and Adam Nathan and Stu Court, who are over here, are still sort of miserable about the fact that England didn't win the Euros, and and from Adam's point of view, his favourite players trying to force his way out. And we're not as excited as maybe you guys over there. Robbie, obviously you're in Indianapolis now, that you just feel it's coming back. The 12s are going to be back in that stadium.
Man, you got a lot going on there. That's that's a lot to deal with. No,
Hold on,
it's
man.
going to be different. There was this feel the last few years that the stadium hasn't been as loud, and I think it's probably true a little bit. And you so many years of winning and everything that maybe there's a little bit of fatigue or something. But then last year, you had it taken away from you, the ability to go and show up and be loud and do all that. So there is a fervor. The 12s are frothing at the mouth to get in that building and be loud and impact the game and cheer on their guys in person. So that's something we've all missed and we all can't wait to get back to. So I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, I can attest to the the stadium being louder, having been a season ticket holder since 2009. It just the last couple of years have felt that way. Like the energy level is different. Like it still gets loud. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it just doesn't feel like it did. And it's hard to put a finger on it. And like people aren't as loud as they used to be. And then like, on third down, you have people sitting down and not standing up, screaming their minds off. And you're just like, stand up. What are you doing? Don't you know where you're at? Like, this is what you're supposed to do. And it's not happening. But I'm really excited for everyone. I mean, now I moved to Indianapolis. I'm going to go to the Colts game. The Seahawks Colts. I'm really excited about it, to be honest with you. But I'm going to come back for a couple of Seahawks games this year. I kept my season tickets, so I'm really excited to get back to the stadium. It feels like home for me. I don't know how I feel about Lumen Field, but whatever. I wasn't excited about CenturyLink Field either, so I'll get over it. But I'm just excited to get back with the 12s and just like really just. Then I miss all the guys that I used to sit around, because they come kind of like just a second family. So I'm excited to get back.
One final message from Joe, and it gives me a chance to end on a joke because it says, rest in peace to British comedian Sean Locke. We have a legendary comedian who's passed away over here this week. You will be missed. And to give you a Sean Locke joke to end the podcast, he was asked on a panel show, Sean, if you had to pick one word from the dictionary to describe yourself, what would it be? And he goes, well, it would be a 4-letter word containing the letters C, U, and T. And that would be cute. I like it. Yeah, he's a good guy, and it's a shame. He's very, very funny. So check him out if you like British comedy. It is an acquired taste, I guess. But if you like it, check out Sean Locke on YouTube. There are plenty of videos out there. Matt, it's been a pleasure having you on the stream for the first time. Absolute pleasure to have you with us. Robbie, it's always a pleasure to see your face and talk some Seahawks with you. Yeah, and hope you're going to be cheering on a Seahawks victory in week 1 as well. And thank you to everybody for sending your questions in. Especially thank you for those super chats. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, spread the word, and we will see you next time.